Thank you for listening to SPN, the Savage Podcasting Network.
You're listening to The Stephen Savage Show on the Savage Podcasting Network. And now here's your host, film and television director, Stephen Savage.
Thank you, Andrea. How you doing, everyone? Savage here with you for another episode of The Stephen Savage Show on the Savage Podcasting Network, the official podcast of the Idlewild International Festival of Cinema, named by The Hollywood Reporter as California's fastest-growing film festival, and also the Scotland International Festival of Cinema, which has just completed its inaugural year this past April in Peebles, Scotland. An amazing experience for myself and my team to kick off our newest festival venture in the UK. As usual, we're coming to you from Lunatopia Studios at Chateau Esteban in the beautiful alpine village of Idlewild, California, just 2 hours east of Los Angeles, but a world away at nearly 6,000 feet high atop Mount San Jacinto and overlooking the great Coachella Valley. And again, a reminder to look out for some very exciting guests on deck in the coming weeks, including a return to the podcast of my friend Oscar and Golden Globe nominated actress Anne Archer, and one of the stars of HBO's Westworld, and of course the voice of Disney's Pocahontas, my good friend Irene Bedard. So look out for those episodes coming up. But for today, my guest is someone I've been hoping to have on the show for quite a while now, and finally her schedule opened up enough to allow her to come on the show. She's a California native like myself, which I find is very rare these days. She's a former cheerleader for the Golden State Warriors of the NBA, as well as the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers, with whom she earned a Super Bowl ring, I believe. I'll check with her on that. And as an actress, she had reoccurring guest roles on iconic television series like Baywatch, VH1's Basketball Wives, and Ally McBeal, among many more. And her international on-screen sports interview and commentary career includes work for Fox, CBS, the BBC, and the NFL Network. Her appearance in magazines like Maxim, Sports Illustrated, and Women's Health have made her a household name worldwide. And something I think is just incredible, she holds the distinction of being the first female scout for the NBA, as well as an assistant general manager in the Los Angeles Lakers organization. But the thing that I find coolest of all in this woman's impressive resume is the fact that she's traveled the world on something like 18 separate tours, making appearances as a goodwill ambassador for her Hounds and Hooves charity, visiting our troops overseas in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other countries. And to me, that's something that needs to be recognized. So without further ado, let me welcome to the show my friend Bonnie-Jill Laflin. Bonnie-Jill, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I know my schedule's been crazy. It is every day. I don't even know what time zone I'm in or what, country I'm in.
I was going to ask you where you're calling in from because I never know where you're at. You're everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny. The pandemic slowed me down, a little bit like it did everyone. But now that things are basically ramped back up, I'm kind of back to my schedule, which is just all over the place. And
you're based in? Are you still based in the Bay Area, San Francisco area?
I'm back and forth from LA to the Bay Area, so I still have my house.
Gotcha.
My house in Marina Del Rey, and then I have my ranch out here in Northern California. So I go back and forth quite often, and in Texas, of course.
Sweet. Yeah, I like looking at those videos you post of the ranch. It's pretty cool, all the animals, and I just dig that stuff. Having a ranch is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Great. I'm right here with my horses, so that's the best part.
There you go. Speaking of horses, the way we met was interesting. I think we were actually introduced, and I can't remember if it was our mutual friends Joanna Krupa and Katie Cleary, but I think it might have actually been the Barbie twins that were connected somehow. Do you remember that?
No, it was Chris Hyde. It was actually Chris Hyde.
That's right. Yeah.
Who's I've been lobbying on Capitol Hill with since 2009 to ban horse slaughter and other animal welfare and veteran issues. So he's the one who actually connected us because you're going to be doing a movie, I believe, Stephen, about something about horses. I can't now. It's been so long ago.
Yeah,
I know
it was a movie called The Wind of Heaven about a soldier who returns home from the Middle East with PTSD and how working with a herd of wild Mustangs in Montana, he finds himself again. And I was looking to cast an actress for a role, someone who knew how to ride and could actually ride, knew something about horses. And Chris brought you to my attention because you are, in fact, an accomplished horsewoman and a barrel racer. And then, of course, you know, you're drop dead gorgeous, and I ran your material by our casting director and producers, and that was a no-brainer. Everyone loved you. Unfortunately, that film, for some reason, ran into funding problems as we were getting it together, and the project it's still on hold. Who knows for how long? But
really,
yeah,
so that would be such a dream to have that, because that's basically combines all my passions, right? So that would be fantastic. That finally was able to see fruition on that one, right?
Yeah, I don't know what exactly happened. I wasn't one of the main producers. I was the director and writer, but yeah, I think it's such a good script that that people are still looking at it, and they're trying to figure out if it's something that's going to be viable in the next couple years, and if that works, that would be great. I also brought you in on another film that unfortunately COVID kind of killed it because of the investors. It's just always about who's bringing the money in and what their stipulations are. And but that was a movie called Ulysses Coyote, and I don't have as much hope for that one as I do Wind of Heaven.
Right.
It was funny, Wind of Heaven, you know, the Moody Blues created a song. Justin Hayward, the main writer and lead singer of the Moody Blues, he wrote a song after he'd read my script, and he went out. They've been out on the road performing it, and the movie's still not even anywhere near.
Oh wow, really?
So,
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, the song is called "The Wind of Heaven." It's amazing going to a concert and watching such an iconic band or an iconic figures performing a song based on something that I wrote. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So keep your fingers crossed. I hold out a lot of hope for that.
That's a sign now. Now that you told me that about the soundtrack already being released, now it's a sign, right?
That's right. We're going to work together sometime in the very near future. So I guess that's my point, is somehow I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming into a film project. You know, I know we're friends, but it's funny, but I have so many friends who are in the industry or in journalism, and so I can also have friends who I'm a big fan of their work, and I'm, as an actress and an on-air personality, whenever I see you on TV covering baseball or basketball or football, I always tell whoever I'm sitting near, I'm like, that's right, she's my friend, I know her. I even do it in sports bars. You know, I was at a sports bar in Palm Springs, and you showed up on the big screen and go, yeah, that's my friend. I'm kind of ridiculous. So anyway, I like to start my interviews by allowing my guests to give my listeners a bit of a life background and a better idea of who they're listening to, and some of my listeners may not be as aware of your work as others. So what about your upbringing, and who were the people who helped shape your life and influence your early life?
Definitely, yeah. I grew up on a horse ranch. My parents had horses before I was even born. My dad had a bunch of race horses. I was going right into the saddle, joking around that I knew how to ride before I could even, take my first steps. So that was a big part of my life.
Riding before
at a young age.
Riding before you could walk. It actually works.
Yeah, because they threw me on that saddle as a baby. So that was kind of how it all began. And then, obviously dance was a big part of my life and sports. Mm-hmm. So my parents kind of had me into everything, which was great because I was able to focus just on that, and good grades. That was really important. My family, I came from a really strict background with my family being, Catholics and military and law enforcement. So I couldn't cut any corners. They really instilled work ethic and to give back. So at a young age, we were going to third world countries and helping the people there and the animals. And so I just really learned, from my family, especially my mother and father, that of course that was so important. Is yes, you may be blessed with all these things. However, there are people who don't, and animals that don't. So we need to always, pay it forward. And so that was like in my DNA, Stephen, right away. And the work ethic just, because I think a lot of people, especially the younger generation, they want everything handed to them. And work ethic, I think it's something that I don't even know if maybe you're just born with it or not, but it's so important. And for me, that's why I'm always grinding and, just going after what I want. And you only live once, and you should try to live every day to the fullest. And I know that sounds cliche, but that's literally what I do. Like, I wake up every day with like a list of what I need to get done and what I'm trying to do. And, like I said, from that point on, since I was a young kid, that's kind of like stayed with me. And, to stay humble, to stay grounded through it all. And I believe I've, stayed on that journey.
Yeah, I don't think that's something you're born with. I think your family has so much to do with it. It doesn't have to necessarily be the nuclear family, but if you don't have strong influences in your life, you're not going to become the person you are, which is, as you said, it's even past hustle for you. I noticed one thing about you, I'm going to say it real quick, is that you and I, whenever we have texts, you are right on it. If you say you're going to send a text or you're going to call me at a certain time, you're always right there. And if you're going to be late, you give me plenty of heads up and say, can we push this a little bit? And to me, that's one of the marks of a person who has their focus together, and I really appreciate that. And in the film and television business, it's very rare. So whatever you're doing right.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's my parents, and you should see I've got so many different alarms going off, Stephen. It's like you wouldn't know what's going on. If I'm baking a bunch of things or what. I'm like, no, I have all these meetings and different things, so I got to set all these alarms and got to make sure when I feed my horse her medicine or my cat this or a meeting or a Zoom meeting, and because it's hard. Even as much as you put things in your phone, I still have to put alarms. So I always just make sure that that I follow through with everything. My parents taught me that as well, and to follow through with your promises and stay true to that, and and integrity, because I think that's really important too, to have the integrity, because I think that's kind of lost now as well.
And the busyness is the other. It's even harder to be on top of things when you're so busy. But what's the old saying? When you want something done, give it to a busy person. And
yes, that's so true. I think I thrive on stress. I think that's. I know it sounds odd, but I think I strive on being. When I'm busy, I feel like I do better in those situations than when I. People say, "Oh, take a day off." I don't even know what that looks like, because I think that would drive me I don't know, it would drive me a little batty, Stephen. So I think that staying busy and having my things in a lot of irons in the fire, I think that's what kind of keeps me going for me, myself. Now, I don't know if that's for everyone, but for me, I think that's just kind of how I'm wired at this point.
Everybody I know who's successful has those things built into them or driven into them, though. You can just tell the people, when you talk to successful people, they all have the same story. Yeah, I stay on top of things. Integrity, as you said, is an important word. And anyway, I just want you to know I pay attention to you and your career, and that's one of the things about you that I kind of learned. You're kind of an inspiration to not just myself, but a lot of people, just in how you're just out there doing it all the time and making things work. I want to just touch on your cheerleading career, because I find that fascinating. How did that come about? And how was the experience for you overall with being with different teams and in different sports?
Well, I started, I was dancing my entire life, like I said, with the Central Ballet Company, and dancing, all over the place, different competitions, and already traveling all over before I was even 18. And so I tried out for the Golden State Warriors at 17. I was a senior in high school, and I made it. So I was fortunate enough to make it on my first year. And so I was a senior in high school, trying to balance like high school life and cheering professionally in the NBA. So that was, I think that's why I had to grow up pretty quick. And then tried out for the 49ers next year, was lucky enough that we went to the Super Bowl that year and awarded a Super Bowl ring, like you mentioned earlier, and then cheered one more year for the Niners. Got accepted to the University of Texas the year after, so went and tried out for the Dallas Cowboys and made that team, and was able to go to school and cheer, dance. So that was, for me, it was great. I was young. It was not something that I would have, make it a career, so to speak, but it was a way for me to network, stepping stones to develop great relationships. And, I had the best seat in the house, being on, the court and the sidelines of the NFL and the NBA, and be able to cheer on these fantastic teams, and teams that have to this day a lot of legacy. and dynasties so attached to it. So I've been really fortunate with that, and I think that just kind of paved the way for the rest of my career.
Yeah, that's people don't look at things. They look at something like, I wouldn't have expected that I'd be doing that if someone asked me, but it's led to so many connections. And I think people who they have a career, they say, I'm going to be this, but they don't realize that nothing is a straight line. Everything's a squiggly line. And your life, it sounds like it's been a lot of do this, do that, and it leads to where you are now. And I think that's pretty awesome. There is no straight line from A to B, that's for sure.
No, and I think it's really important. I think there's a lot of people in our industry, Stephen, that maybe sometimes will look down on certain things they did in their career. But I feel like everything we do along the way, of course, there's exceptions, but everything we do along the way, I think it kind of molds you as who you are as a person, and also molds your career and to show the things that you did to get where you were at. Like nothing was handed to you. I mean, so people are like, oh, you were a Hooters girl. Are you like ashamed that you did that? Why would I be ashamed of it? I was a young kid. I was able to be, in their calendar and tour and do all this stuff, meet more people. I was in Hawaiian tropics. Like there's nothing that you can ask me that I'd ever shy away from and not acknowledge or talk about, because I think it's great that I have different layers and dimensions and, what I did to make it to where I'm at, and I'm proud of the way I did it, and, and I grinded and worked hard. And I think working hard is underrated nowadays. And I feel like that's something that I appreciate when I see someone, doing whatever they take to try to climb and to get where they want to be.
Sure, yeah, and it's funny how you talk about Hawaiian tropics, and you're not ashamed of any of that. My good friend Rebecca, she's now working on her PhD in oceanography, and she was a Hawaiian tropics girl for years. And she says it put her through school, and she had fun, and who cares, It's like, wow.
Right.
And the experiences she had, she wouldn't trade for anything. Made a lot of great friends.
Exactly. You get to travel the world.
Yeah, that's what she did. But before we get into your NBA dealings and all of that, I want to talk about your acting career a little bit. Mostly, I'd like to know, how hard is it for you to balance your acting career and pursuing roles and auditions and your sports journalism career, which has you on the road so much? How hard is that?
It's definitely difficult. I mean, at this point, it's like so much of my focus is into my, sports reporting and hosting. But there's a lot of roles that come by through my agent that, if they fit, we're not going to force a role, like, how you always come to me that a role you think fits me. So it's like before, it's like you're going after everything, right? Yeah. Now it's like I get a lot of things that, that are suited best for me, whether it's a reporter role, whether
Sure.
it's something, a girl on a horse, or, something with a dance background, or, sports background, whatever it may be. That's usually the roles that I'm auditioning for, or that are, presented to me. Stuff that's kind of very, I would say the synergy's there, and it's just very organic. Mm-hmm. So that's how I kind of, focus on that. But it's, trust me, I mean, I think that's probably why I don't have a family, because my whole life has been my career, my charity, and my animals, and that's about it. I don't really have time to eat or sleep, let alone add a family, So right now, that's just been married to the game, so to speak.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because it goes back to, like you said, about what are vacations. Do you ever take a day off? No, I don't even know what that is. And
no, I can't even tell you the last time I actually took a vacation, because everyone sees me going to all these great locations. But however, I always say, I'm working. So I may be, before the pandemic, I was traveling literally all over the world, different places. But I'm, it's like I may have one day of like maybe sightseeing, so to speak. But majority of the time, I'm usually working. And so I couldn't even tell you the last time I actually took a vacation, where I just was going for a vacation. Right. I'm always going because I'm going for a charitable effort, whether it's some kind of campaign to save animals or, work, but actually just like getting on a plane with a friend or whoever and actually just going and laying on the beach. Like, I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Right. And the funny thing is, I'm pretty much the same way. And as you are, is like, even the thought of it, I don't even go, man, it'd be nice to have a vacation. I'm always looking at, well, what's my next writing deadline, or what's my next commercial gig that I've got to direct? It seems to be part of the lifestyle. Vacations are like, for people that have a a 9 to 5 factory job for me. It's like my
right. That's what I think so too.
Yeah,
I believe that too. Because think about it, everyone in the industry, when they go on what looks like or perceived as a vacation on social media, it's actually combined with work, right?
Yep, exactly. I was just talking about the Scotland International Film Festival that I just started with my partners, and I had a great time. I was in Scotland for 9-10 days, and I love Scotland, always have. But I was working most of the time. But you pick those moments. So sitting in a pub with a friend is like, that's kind of a little mini vacation for me, and then it's right back to work. So yeah, just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, I gotta go to that, by the way. I've been dying to go to that Scotland your festival, because I have family in Ireland that I've been saying I'm gonna go see in Dublin for so long. So I need to go next year to your event and kind of combine that. Maybe that'll be a kind of a vacation.
Be careful. You're starting to slack off. You might take some time for yourself.
Yeah.
So let's talk.
Exactly.
Let's talk a bit about your unique relationship with the NBA and how did that all come about to become the first active female scout for a major sport like that? That journey must have been really interesting.
Yeah, it really was. And it's funny how it all kind of came about, because the late Dr. Jerry Buss, who was the owner of the Lakers, his family still has the Laker ownership, the Buss family. Mm-hmm. And, I was covering the team for KCBS, and I don't know, I guess I just have like an eye for talent. So I'd be sitting there, talking to Jerry West, who's obviously the NBA logo,
right,
and Dr. Jerry Buss, and we would just talk, talent, talk about, I don't know, just talk about different kids that are, recruits that just came into college, or, different prospects and so forth. And they were like, wow, you really have like a knack for it. And would you go scout? I think it was a Pac-10 game, which is now Pac-12, but Pac-10 at the time. Mm-hmm. And they loved my scouting reports. And so I ended up scouting for the Lakers for a year without getting paid. Uh-huh. I may add.
Right.
And it was Big 12 and Pac-10. And then they loved all my scouting reports, signed me to a 5-year deal, another 5-year deal, and then another deal. So I was able to stay with the team for almost 13 years, 5 championships. And to this day, it kind of seems like, wow, it happened, seemed like it was just yesterday, but it's been almost 10 years now
right,
when I left the organization. I left when Phil Jackson left. So it was one of the best experiences, of my life, and just being able to build the relationships. Kobe Bryant was a very good friend of mine. He was a big mentor of mine who really helped me, because times were very tough. It's not like, we've been so much more progressive now about women in sports, and mm-hmm, back then that it wasn't as accepted. So I dealt with a lot of, literally blood, sweat, and tears of just the media being vicious, different women being vicious, not being able to embrace what I was doing, looking at like what I did in my career, like I was mentioning, like, oh, she was a Hooters girl, now she's a scout. They act like, or I was a cheerleader and I went right to a scout. They didn't realize it wasn't like I dropped my pom-poms when I was scouting. Like, there were so many
right,
years in between.
Of course.
You're allowed to like grow as a person and career. And so there was so much, and so I used to like put my hair up in a hat so you couldn't see my hair, and put all big old like Jordan sweats on, and so people couldn't tell that I was a girl. Mm-hmm. And then Brian Shaw, one of the coaches, he was like, "Why are you walking like that? And why do you look like a little boy?" And I'm like, "Cause I would walk like them, try to be, and they were like, he's like, stop walking like a dude. He's like, your basketball. He's like, just that's all who cares,
right,
what you look like. So I really tried to downplay who I was, my looks, so forth. And, I got so much great insight from different people, especially when you're talking the Kobe Bryant and the Jerry West and, these big people, big names in the NBA, Michael Jordan, telling me, just be who you are, ask the rest of them, just stop listening to the rest of these people and just kind of be who you are. And, everything else will show, and your credibility, will just come, start trying, you don't need to force it. So, I kind of listened to them, and it worked out for me. But yeah, it was really, really tough in the beginning. And there's many times I'm like, I don't want to do this, and luckily social media wasn't as crazy as it is now.
Right.
It was just starting. Twitter had just started
Mm-hmm.
in 2011 or whatever. So it was still, though, it's still people being vicious. Even to this day, you still get stuff. But, I think I proved myself, and it's led to many other things. And, it was a, great moment in my life.
Yeah, it's funny. It goes full circle back to what you said about work ethic, and I find it when you said that you started out as a scout working for free, and I think about how much free work I've done just to make the connections and just to kickstart something, and eventually it leads. And I run into people like crew people. Never worked on a movie before. It's their first one, and the first thing they do is come up and they want to know how much they're getting paid. And I say, I never asked that for my first 10 jobs in film.
Right.
I didn't ask about the money. You want to know how much you're going to get paid before you've even learned your craft. And it's just, I meet people like you, and it's like, that's how you do it. Adam Carolla was one of those guys saying how many jobs he did for free just to make that connection, and you know Adam, look where he went to. And,
and to prove yourself, and just like, and again, I hate to say this, but the younger generation, it's like, I see them interview for, like, I'll be, going in the studio and I'll hear, like, someone who's trying to apply for a job, and literally out of their mouths is, how many days do I get off? How much am I getting paid? What are the benefits? And what does my office look like? It's like, dude, you haven't even proven yourself. And you are like, how could you even, I can't even fathom that, because I know how much time, like, I didn't get paid anything, or if I get paid anything, it was a lunch. Lunch was my payment, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of laugh when these, I don't know. I just kind of, I have to chuckle, because I'm like, really? Like, they want to make $150,000 out the gate with benefits and time off. And it's like, you're working in sports. There is no such thing as time off, because we work 365 days a year. You want Christmas off? Then don't work in the NBA, because those are our biggest games.
Right.
You know what I mean? You want to work for the Cowboys, but you want Thanksgiving off? Do you not know when you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, there's so much sacrifices you have to make if you really want to be in sports or entertainment. And if you don't want to make those sacrifices, go in your little cubicle and work a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. I always think it's cool when, like, seem to always be working 4th of July, and my family they always invite me to these family barbecues, and I always have to turn it down. And then my older brother one time said, we always talk about you at the barbecues, how cool it is that you're, it's too bad you can't be here, but we understand. And well, yeah, that's what I do. I work. Working is what I do. But you and I are...
Yeah, and that's holidays. Holidays, people don't realize holidays don't matter in our world.
Right.
I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't.
Yeah.
Especially in sports. Like, those are our biggest games are during holidays, because we know everyone else is home.
Right. Even if you work at a factory, I mean, if you're working a holiday, you get paid more. There's nothing wrong with holidays being a work day. I find
right.
Everybody needs
and
to
of
be
course
coddled.
I enjoy what I'm doing. I don't know how much I'd enjoy, working on a holiday, working another job, but we are in the excitement of it all, and it's but it is a lot of sacrifice. That's why when I talk to a lot of girls who want to work in sports, I tell them, it's like, hey, you got to be thick-skinned, you got to learn to sacrifice, like, because there's still a lot of people that you and I know that, like, okay, they want to be in this space, but they also want to be able to party and, do everything else. And it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? That's not really going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much I want to get to, but I'm conscious of the fact that that you're going to have to bounce pretty quick. So I just want to get to a couple of important
I got
things.
about 10 more minutes.
Okay, cool. So you and I are big supporters of the American military, and you actually put your ideals where your mouth is, and you've been all over the world making appearances and hanging out with our men and women in armed forces, and I just admire that. How did that become such a big part of who you are? And tell us a little bit about your Hounds and Heroes organization.
Yeah. So again, going back to my childhood, so my whole family was military. My grandfather served in World War II, and one of my grandfathers was in the Bataan Death March, if you're familiar with that. So awarded the Silver Star and the Purple Heart. And then my other grandfather was in World War II as well as a pilot. And then my uncle was a career Marine, served in Vietnam. He was gunnery sergeant, awarded the Purple Heart as well. My father was law enforcement for 47 years. Was undercover narcotics. So I just, was my way of always being able to wanting to give back to our heroes. And the reason we have the freedom that we have is because of the men and women in uniform. So I remember my uncle giving me this story, Stephen, it always stick with me. When he was in Vietnam, Elizabeth Taylor went over to Vietnam for a USO tour. And I remember going, gosh, I would love to one day be able to do that and to give back to our heroes. And so I was fortunate enough, not that I'm Elizabeth Taylor by any means, but I was, I was fortunate enough to be able to go with my first USO tour with the 49ers. And then, and that was in Bosnia. And then went over to with the Dallas Cowboys, went on another USO tour to the Middle East. And then I was able, after, my career had flourished, I was asked to MC a lot of these events going overseas during the Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, which is in Afghanistan. And I was able to go over, Wayne Newton, who's now like the new Bob Hope, I should say, when it came to USO, and go over and MC these huge variety shows for our men and women during the war, and even off stage, go and you visit with these guys and you play poker or just talk to them, and a lot of them just want someone to be able to talk to when they're overseas and bring a piece of America to them, because all they're doing is watching the news, where at that time some of the news and some of were obviously not good, kind of taking some jabs at our military. So I think it was nice to show that there are people that support them, support what they're doing. And for me, like literally, and I'm not just saying it was life-changing being over there. It was just, it's hard to explain, but it was so surreal because you first go over and you go over to, we would fly from LA, we would go to Washington, D.C., and then from there, they would take us into Kuwait, and then we would go into C-130s over to in-country, and then we would take Blackhawks to go all over to visit different bases and fire bases and so forth, because we obviously would go, everywhere we could, not just the big bases, and just being able to develop these, wonderful relationships with these men and women. And these often were just kids, Stephen, 18, 19-year-old kids. And it was just, I can't explain like how important it was. So that's why I continued every time they asked me to go. I went during Thanksgiving, I went during Christmas, and just continued to go. And, I went, 8 years of different tours. And I have 20 under my belt now where I've gone. And it was very important for me to do that. And so when I saw how the men and women were treated after they came back, or when they got out, that there wasn't a lot of resources for them. And a lot of times the VA was just pumping them up with drugs, giving them a one-time therapy session. And I fought for this a lot on Capitol Hill with the VA because I disagree with some of their methods. And so I wanted to provide, what can I do for these, for them when they come back, when they're dealing with PTSD, which I call PTS now, having the D on there for disorder, TBI, amputees, what can we do? And so me being involved so much in animal welfare, I said, I want to rescue these dogs, and then I want to pair them up with, our heroes, and train them as service dogs, therapy dogs, and for the military families as companion dogs. So I started my foundation, Hounds and Heroes, in 2010. And still doing that mission today. Actually going to be pairing up a dog next week for a guy who was blown up by an IED, and he's in Texas, and we're going to be pairing him up with a dog named Diana, and so she'll be going over there. And we've now expanded now to Hounds and Heroes and Hooves, so we'll be changing our name. And since I do so much with rescuing horses, we've done a lot of equine therapy retreats, even for wounded warriors on the weekends out of Texas, and now we're going to expand that now to California and have, the different horses that we save from slaughter being able to have their second career in being therapeutic for our wounded warriors, combat veterans. So that's what I do, and I think it's so important. And besides what we do just on that end, we like to do other things, helping, homeless veterans, helping veterans have resources, how to get money that they're owed to them through the VA that they have no way, having to get them new jobs, their second careers, and, different things just to kind of lend a hand, because I think a lot of them are forgotten. Yeah,
of course. I love how you said that about the PTSD becoming just PTS. I think that's great. It's awesome. It was. I've been influenced by a lot of what my friends like yourself and like Katie Cleary, and I got involved as we were creating the Wind of Heaven development stage, and I got involved in something called Warhorse Creek with a friend of mine, Randall Harris, who's passed away now, but he was a film director who developed this organization in the mountains in Idyllwild of bringing wild mustangs and other wild horses from different national parks and things, and just having wounded warriors come and just interact. We've shot so much video of how they interacted with the horses and how the horses could kind of tell the minute they walk up just that, this person has something going on that they need to be healed, and the horses kind of felt that, and I was just fascinated by it. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Real quick, let's just tell us a little bit about your sportswear line. You have a thing called Double Play, I believe.
No, we actually it was so hard for us to be able to for me to do so much, and my partner in that, she ended up getting pregnant and getting married, and so it was so hard for me to try to do that as well, because I only am one person, Stephen. So
right.
We had that for about 10 years, and then we had to kind of hang it up, and we tried to bring it back and do a relaunch, and then it's just so hard. I mean, because like I said, as much as I have a great board and great team that helped me through my career and my charity, it's I'm very, I guess you can call me a control freak, Stephen. I like to still play so much a part of I want to know what's going on. You know what I mean? So I delegate. However, I still want to be involved. And so it's so hard to try to do so much. I'm writing a book right now. So I just, there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah. No, so I get it. I totally get it. Again, that plays right into, you're always out there. And some, like the film Ulysses Coyote we were talking about, I just had to drop it because there's so much else going on. You're going to you start losing traction if you focus on one thing too much. You've got too much going on. So I'm going to let you get out of here pretty quick. But first, if you could just let us know, how do people keep up with Bonnie-Jill Laflin? I mean, is the social media, your organization websites, anything like that? If you want to plug, that'd be great.
Definitely. So as you know, I'm pretty active on social media. So Twitter, it's at BJ Laflin, because someone took Bonnie-Jill and then wanted me to pay for it, and I wasn't going to. So
right.
That's different than the rest of my handles. And then Bonnie-Jill, Instagram, and Facebook, and then Hounds and Heroes, which is Hounds and then Heroes, HEROES. And that's on our social media, houndsandheroes.com, bonniejill.com, and you can see how you can get involved. And if there's any veterans that are listening and would like for us to help them with a service dog, please get in touch.
That's great. Houndsandheroes.com. Everybody remember that one. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Stephen Savage Show. I want to thank everyone for spreading the word. Word of mouth has gotten has had our numbers skyrocketing over the last year on a daily basis on every platform. So my team and I truly appreciate it. So for my guest, Bonnie-Jill Laflin, and myself, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Bonnie-Jill.
Thanks for having me on.